Good morning, everyone. So, you're all from this recent batch. Anybody from older batches? Batch means like 24 batch. This is 25 batch, right? Everybody is from 25 batch. Okay. So, people from 25 batch, probably most of you would not have yet seen me. My name is Sailesh. I've been teaching public administration for the last 5 years, 6th year now. I've given 5 UPSC mains with public administration optional. Earlier I used to teach Indian economy also. Now I teach public administration along with Manjunath sir. I take paper 1 and Manjunath sir takes paper 2. Mostly. There are some chapters which we exchange, but in general this is the case. So today this is an orientation session. Here the objective is just to help you understand what public administration is as a subject, what is expected from UPSC and such, so that you will be in a better position to understand and maybe even choose an optional. How many of you have already chosen the optional? Okay, couple of you have. If you have chosen the optional, then you will get an idea about what is actually there, what you are going to study. It's some sort of a bird's eye view, so that you get some sort of a framework. Later when we start classes, you will be able to put everything in perspective. That is the objective of today's class. So we are not going to discuss any topics. It's just for you to understand about the subject. So everybody knows pattern in UPSC mains. General studies holds 1000 marks, optional holds 500 marks and essay holds 250 marks. This is a marks distribution pattern. But if you see any average student, how much effort they are putting in, which do you think they will put most effort in? GS, because obviously it is 1000 marks, a lot of effort goes into GS. Consider any subject that you have attended classes and studied. Consider polity or geography. The maximum marks that you will get in GS, like say, imagine geography. In GS1 around 70 marks of questions will come in GS1 paper, that is basically GS1 paper out of general studies. For 70 marks, you probably attended around 100 hours of class and you made notes and you studied everything. So this is 70 marks worth of questions only. And for optional, there is 500 marks. That means just for you to give a reference on how much effort actually you need to put in optional, you have to take a reference of any GS subject, how much marks are actually coming out of this GS subject, say polity, 80 to 100 marks. Whatever effort you put for polity, probably reading Lakshmikant and class notes probably 5-6 times, that would have taken hundreds of hours. Multiplied by 5, that is the type of effort that you have to put in optional, because it is for 500 marks. But Actually, if you see how much effort people put in optional, 80% of the effort actually goes to GS because the syllabus is so high and there are so many things to study, all the time goes there. Then whatever little bit amount of time is left, they will put it for optional. That too, it's not consistent. Here and there they will feel insecure about optional for 2-3 months and then they will study. Then they will leave it for another 2-3 months until they feel insecure again, and this cycle continues. This is a regular pattern that you see among most of the students. And 15% effort is good enough for you to get, around 200 marks you will get, but that is not good enough to get a rank. Between 200 to push it to 300, you will have to increase this effort commensurate with the marks. That means, like I said, basically 500 marks means probably half of whatever effort you are putting in entire GS, you should be able to put it in optional. If you do that, then actually the result in optional will be much higher. Consider geography. We considered 70 marks, right? Out of 70 marks, what is the best that you can hope to get? In any question, how much score will they give? In a 10 marker, what is the maximum score you will get? 4.5. That means out of 70, if you score 30, that is actually the maximum any topper can score also. 30 out of 70, 4.5 out of 10 is 45%. But in optional, it is possible to score 60% also. That means whatever effort you are putting in optional, the amount of result that you get in terms of percentage marks is much higher compared to most of the GS subjects. But because why people don't put adequate effort on optional? They feel it is just like one subject. Like polity, we will also study public administration. Like geography, we will also study this. But the problem is they forget about the weightage given in the exam. You understood this? So actually each chapter inside this optional paper is equivalent to an entire GS subject. If you look at it like this, then you will get to know what is the level of depth expected from UPSC in optional paper. Essay people don't put any effort at all. Somehow they will write around 10 essays between prelims and main. 95%, 98% of people only do this much. If you can do a little more, it is easier to score in optional and essay compared to GS. So everybody knows what is the pattern of optional. Has anybody seen any paper? Is there any choice in optional? Yes. Is there any choice in any other paper? In GS? There is no concept of choice in GS paper. In your college you might have had choice, but here all questions are mandatory. In essay paper you have a choice, part A and B you have to choose one. Similarly in optional also, in current pattern you have choice. So what is the choice here? You have to answer 5 out of 8 questions. 8 questions are divided into 2 parts, 4 questions each. So out of these 4 questions each, first question out of this is mandatory. First question is here, and then 5th question is the first question of part B. These 2 are mandatory. Each will be for 50 marks. That means each question is 50 marks. You have to choose 5 out of this. 5 out of this means you don't have a choice in first and fifth. Those are mandatory. How many are remaining? 3 are remaining. 3 you can choose from these 2. So in this first and fifth question are all 10 markers, because 5 questions are there 50 marks, so that means they are all 10 mark questions. And the other questions, there are 3 questions within this, they are divided as 15, 15 and 20, or sometimes 20, 20, 10. However they want to split that 50 marks, they will do it. This is common to every optional. Everybody understood the pattern here. So earlier means around 10 years ago, we still had this pattern, but they used to give like first chapter in first question, second chapter in second question, largely. Some questions deviated, but like college exams. But now we don't have that luxury, everything is mixed up. At that point it was possible that okay, if I don't know 7th chapter properly, then also I can score well by skipping this entire question. You understood? 7th, 8th, 9th unit in this, 10th, 11th, 12th unit in this. This is how it used to be. But now we don't have that. Everything is mixed up together. You may have choice in the questions, but you don't have choice in deciding which chapter to study, which chapter not to study, because it is possible that single chapter there may be many questions in different, you can say, many sub questions in different questions here. So because of that reason you have to study entire syllabus, only then you will be able to answer the paper completely. You understand? Any questions? Any questions with regard to optional marks pattern? This is in general with regard to optional. Now coming to public administration. So our job here is to make you understand what is the advantage you get or disadvantage that you get because of public administration. I'll tell you both so that you will be in a better position to choose. First is, there is a lot of overlap with GS. GS is 1000 marks. You can see GS2 polity and governance entire part overlaps with public administration. That means concepts are all same. If you study it in public administration, you don't have to do it in GS2. If you do it in GS2, you don't have to do it in public administration. Even if you do it, the amount of time that it takes to catch the concept and do revision is very less. This is the biggest advantage. In fact, this was a major reason why everybody was taking public administration long ago. 2008 to 2012, number of people taking public administration optional used to be 70 to 80% of everybody, entire people who are writing mains, because there is this much overlap. Then in GS3 also there is 30% overlap between GS3 and public administration. This part, economy part, disaster management part, there is this overlap. Remaining 70% is not overlapping there. In GS4 there is 40%. GS4 is which paper? Ethics paper. Ethics paper actually is made up of 3 parts. First part is there are 3 parts. One part is psychology. In psychology, attitude and such other things are present. So, and second part is philosophy. They are all 3 pieces: psychology, philosophy and public administration. These 2 are smaller parts. Public administration part is the biggest part. People who take optional psychology, optional philosophy, they also have some advantage in GS4 because there is overlap in syllabus in GS4 and these subjects. Public administration has the biggest overlap, that is 40%. So if you add this up, 40 and 30 and another 70, that is 140%. Out of 1000 marks in GS, 140% of one paper, that is probably from 300, 350 marks. You can say there is overlap between GS and public administration. You understood this? So this is the biggest advantage. Overall, there is a reduction of effort by about say 20%. In entire preparation, you can reduce 20% effort. Consider conservatively 15% effort. That means instead of studying 10 hours a day, if you study 8.5 hours a day, you can still get the job done. This is the biggest advantage of public administration. So, like I said, between 2008 to 2012, actually everybody started taking public administration because of this overlap. But UPSC wants heterogeneity. That means they want people to take different options. They don't want single optional. If 28 optionals are there, everybody is taking one optional. Obviously, they don't want that. So what they did was they made this paper entirely, very difficult in 2013 and 14, and the scores were low. Since then, people started taking different options. Since then, actually, UPSC has followed this trend. Every 3-4 years, they will reduce the scores of whatever optional people are taking. Right now, right now probably anthropology is there where everybody is taking anthropology. And then what happens is, we don't know in which year it would happen, then UPSC will reduce the general trend of score in that optional itself, so that there is some sort of heterogeneity. Number of people taking that optional will reduce in the long run. Public administration after 13-14 lower scores, people are, you can say, people feel that in general public administration scores are low and number of people taking this optional is not very high. It's about 15-20%. That is not big enough for, an optional to be targeted and scores to be reduced. You understood this? So you saw what is the advantage of public administration. Then there is one more advantage. There are a lot of interlinkages between GS and public administration. Interlinkage means once you understand something in public administration in depth, it will help you give that as an example in GS. And similarly, something you studied in GS or in general current affairs when you are reading GS, you can give that as an example in public administration. So there is a lot of overlap in the sense, not just in syllabus. This sort of deeper understanding in public administration will help you write better answers in GS. So, and then these facts, specifics, examples from GS helps in writing good answers in public administration also. So if you can use it well, you can easily score around 30 marks more in public administration using GS knowledge, and you can score 30 marks more in GS using public administration knowledge, because there is overlap. You understood this? So it helps you in getting a broader perspective about government, and it helps you build opinions. So how generally UPSC exam is structured is, there is prelims, mains and interview. In prelims you only need to recognize that something is going on. There is some Israel-Palestine issue that is happening, this much you should know. In mains you should be able to analyze the entire issue, why it is happening, how it is happening, and what may happen in future, etc. And by interview stage you should be able to form an opinion. Opinion means, what is your opinion? Should India interfere in this? What side should we take? So opinion means, as an individual, what is, I personally feel this is what you should be able to tell in interview. So if you actually write opinions in mains, then you will actually get better marks in mains also. In interview they specifically ask you opinions. And in public administration, because the depth in which we take up issues is much higher than general studies, it will help you build these opinions, and it will give you this advantage in personality test, that is interview. In interview usually public administration students will get around 20 to 25 marks more compared to a regular student, provided other things are not a problem. Like for example, in interview your personality, your confidence and your whether they will check whether you have overconfidence or ego, or are you assertive. Other things, if they are reasonable, then you will get around 20-25 marks more. There is a 70% chance that you can get this higher score. Other 30% depends upon your other aspects that nobody can control. So overall you get this advantage of around, like I said, 30-35% overlap in GS, and also some advantage in personality test. Once you get into service, once you get into actual job, you will be in a much better position to do the job compared to someone else who has not studied public administration. Because here you will study, if there are so many employees under you, how to make sure you will motivate them, how to act like a good leader, how to ensure the work gets done. So how to do your job better. That is basically public administration is. If you become a district collector, or if you get into any job in government, then how you can do your job better. It is a practitioner oriented subject. Practitioner means what? Somebody who practices something is a practitioner. For example, consider doctors. There are doctors who do only research also. There are doctors who actually practice medicine. Practicing medicine means what? People who treat patients, write prescriptions, do surgeries are the ones who are practicing. And you are here in public administration, whatever you are studying is actually practitioner oriented subject. If you have done anybody has done any graduation or masters in public administration? Okay, if you have done any degrees, they would have been oriented towards theoretical aspect of public administration. Here we are oriented towards practical aspect of public administration. theoretical aspects are there in political science. There is overlap between public administration and political science also. 40% of the subject is same, but the orientation is different. Orientation is theoretical. What is democracy? What is, you can say, freedom, liberty? This type of ideological discussion, debate, and you can say the whole exploration will be there in political science. But in public administration, we are not concerned with detailed ideological analysis. We are just concerned with what is our goal, how to achieve it as quickly as possible, as easily as possible, with less budget, less manpower, etc. Because that is the challenge you will face actually in government. You understood? So it is a practical, practitioner oriented subject, and it helps you be a better officer if you clear the exam. If you don't clear the exam also, administrative skills and administrative knowledge will be helpful regardless of where you go. Imagine you become a manager or you get into some other organization and you want to lead your own organization, then also it will help. This is basically the advantage of public administration. Administration is same whether it is public or private. Administration means ensuring that you get things done. You have a goal, how to achieve that goal. So this is basically advantage. Will your background matter? If you have, should you have studied or should you have had the subject earlier? It won't matter. Very few people have graduation in public administration. Sometimes they are there, but it is less than 2%, 1% only. Most of the people who are getting good scores in public administration are from engineering, medicine background, because it is not a very difficult subject. It is something that you can cover up to the level of master's level knowledge. You will be able to get within 1 year. From usually whatever it takes like 5 years, like consider BA, MA, that you can get it in 1 year, but you need to put consistent effort to be able to build that level of expertise. So there are other optionals. Consider medical science as an optional. Medical science as an optional, whatever they have studied for 5 years in entire medicine, they will have to study that entire thing and then they have to write the syllabus on that, and the amount of information that they have to study is massive. Compared to that, these type of subjects, public administration, whatever popular subjects are there, why they are popular is because of this reason. They are manageable. It is not extremely difficult to cover up the syllabus in given time. Usually it may take around 4 to 5 months. You will be able to get a good grip on the subject at that point of 5th month, 6th month. You understood this? So far we have seen only the positives. Any questions until here? No questions. So next, coming to challenges. There is dynamism in the subject. What is the meaning of dynamic? It means it is changing. It means it is not always constant. Imagine you take history optional. There is no way ancient history can change. It is always going to be same. If you revise 10th time, it is still going to be same. There is nothing that will change. But if you take public administration optional, then there will be changes that are happening. That means, for example, Narendra Modi government wins a 3rd term. Because of this, you can say what will be the implications for the next 5 years. You can say there will be stability and the policies will continue as it is. Nothing much you can say. Basically, imagine government had changed this time. Then they would have brought new policies. They would have created different priorities for government, and based on that, the type of questions that they are asking in exam would also change, because government has set a new goal now, new priority, how to achieve that goal and how to achieve that priority. So this dynamism, you need to maintain touch with current affairs. This is the challenge. That means you cannot expect that, okay, I won't study current affairs at all, still I want to get good score in optional. That will not work in public administration. It might work in a lot of other subjects, because history doesn't have any current affairs touch. UPSC actually is trying to somehow bring current affairs into that also. Somebody finds some archaeological find and they will ask that. Some 100th year, 200th year, 500th year of something, they will ask that. But that is very limited. Maximum that they can do is 50 marks out of 500. But here you can expect around 150 to 200 marks out of 500 to be current affairs oriented. That means you have to bring some amount of current affairs to it. But when I say current affairs, it does not mean you have to study something specifically separate for public administration. What do you study when we say current affairs? Newspaper, then normal whatever current affair magazine or whatever monthly compilation you are studying for GS 2 and 3 syllabus, whatever you study, same thing you study, same thing you revise a couple of times more, think about it from public administration perspective, then you will find, okay, I remember reading this, I can give this example, whatever I am giving for GS 3, same thing I can give as example in public administration also. So that is basically dynamism here. Second point, expectation from UPSC is high because the syllabus is not very high. How can they bring equality between you and somebody who is taken medical science as optional, because that person is probably studying 4 or 5 times the syllabus compared to you. So because they cannot increase syllabus, what they have done is they have increased the expectation of depth. They can't increase breadth, then they will increase depth. Depth means you cannot clear the exam using shallow understanding of any concept. You need to get into the depth in such a way that basically, like I said, you will achieve master's level understanding by the end of classes. So, and if you have to develop this grip on the subject, then continuous effort is necessary. It is not that something you study periodically. Here and there I will study for a while and I will skip this, later I will study mostly GS only. So that is not going to work for public administration. In a day you have to divide like probably 25% of the time for optional. Keep it as it is, as long as possible. 80% of days you have to keep 25% of time. That means imagine there are 300 more days. 80% of this means 240 days. Out of these 300 days, you have to study public administration. If you are studying 10 hours a day, then you have to give 2.5 hours to public administration. If you do this, then you don't have to worry, you are doing the right things and you will probably get better scores than others. You understood this? So, in fact, actually every optional requires this. I won't tell you that there are other optionals where with less effort you can score more. But I can tell you there are other optionals where without current affairs you can still score well. But public administration without current affairs, actually for GS also you need current affairs anyway. But some students are not comfortable with current affairs at all. They feel that okay, in GS I may lose 10% marks. But if I take some other literature optional or something where current affairs may not matter, then I can cover it up there or something. If that is the case, if you have a serious problem with current affairs, then this is not the right optional for you. You understood this? So, everybody understood what are the challenges here. First is there is current affairs, it is dynamic. Second, UPSC's expectation is high. If you do it by yourself, it will be difficult. Why it will be difficult? Because in fact, any optional would be difficult because UPSC expects a certain orientation from you. Like what is practitioner's orientation? How is it different from theoretical orientation? You have to understand that is possible only in a class. For you see anywhere in the country, all the successful candidates would have attended optional coaching. GS coaching sometimes they would have skipped and still they can clear it. Optional coaching 90%, 95% of the time people would have attended. And you see in any coaching, experts in that particular subject don't teach that subject. People who have given UPSC exam teach that subject. And only then actually people will clear. That is because I have given 5 mains with public administration optional. Manjunath sir has given 5 mains with public administration optional. Between us we have this 10 mains experience and how UPSC asks questions, what exactly it is expecting. After that, in the last 5 years, we have taught so many batches of public administration. They have written mains and we could understand, okay, this is what we thought, this is what was the question. So what we have done is we have refined this. we have iterated in such a way, now we have a good understanding of what exactly is expected by UPSC and how to teach this class in such a way. This dynamism is also covered in the class as much as possible. That means current affairs you will try to cover as much as possible in the class itself. Maximum amount of current affairs is used to just give examples for static concepts. Some questions are directly current affairs oriented, but that will be less, around 50 marks. Remaining on around 150 marks, it will be current affairs that you give as examples to static questions. And remaining 300 marks is all pure static only, but this 40% of public administration is dynamic. And second point also, we have tried to address this problem using our whatever 10-year experience both giving exam and teaching. We have created a comprehensive course. Public administration optional in Insights actually runs longer than other optionals because we want to cover the level of depth that UPSC is expecting. Number of hours we take is approximately 100 to 110, sometimes up to 120. So per person. Actually overall this is a 300-hour course. Some concepts what we used to do pure static was, there are 5 or 6 classes that we used to give as recorded classes. This year we are thinking we can do that also in live itself. So probably 300 hours is 150 hours each of both Manjunath sir and me, we will be taking proper live class. So 300 hours, you can take any other optional. Literature optional runs only 200 hours, PSIR runs around 200 hours, Sociology 250 hours, and Public Administration 300, sometimes 320 hours. So that means overall why are we taking so much time to cover Public Administration is because expectation from UPSC with regard to the depth of understanding is high. We want to cover as much as possible in the class itself, and that is how we have tried to address this problem of Public Administration. You understood this? So, infamy of Public Administration. Infamy means people have this fear of the subject. Why they have this fear? This is because, like I said, in 2013 and 14, overall scores were reduced in Public Administration as a subject. And still that fear continues even today, even after 10 years. Which is somewhat good for actually people who take Public Administration, because number of people who are taking it will be relatively less. If you do take it, if you are okay, comfortable with advantages and challenges, whatever you have seen, this won't actually matter. This will matter for those subjects where everybody is taking the same subject. Maybe PSIR and right now last 2 years, 1 or 2 years, Sociology also is there. Anthropology is there since last 3-4 years. One of those subjects, or maybe some of these subjects may have lesser scores this year, next year, we don't know when. But Public Administration is not in that list because number of students who are taking this subject are relatively low. You understood? So you can see there is a consistent increase in marks after this. Here number of people getting ranks has not changed in the last 10 years, it is approximately same. Before that it was less in 13 and 14. But after that, if you give effort in optional, you will get good scores, you will get good ranks. If you don't, you won't. There is no link between you choosing Public Administration optional and your score. For some optionals it is there. Geography usually is not recommended. I don't know why, but score trends are low. And then, like I said, Anthropology, Political Science, I think these two are the major subjects. Sociology is to a lesser extent. Any other subject you take are relatively somewhat better off. So right now risk is less in Public Administration if you don't have problem with these things. That is basically the advantages and challenges whatever we discussed. But if you have a problem here, then it is better to choose any other option. So, but if you are choosing an optional, what is the most important factor based on which you have to choose the optional? First important aspect is interest in the subject. Imagine you choose the best optional, but you don't have interest in the subject, then you will not be able to score in that. Why interest in the subject is important? If you have to give 2.5 3 hours of effort for hundreds of days, and worst case scenario, if you don't clear it first attempt, then probably years together you have to give everyday effort for 2 3 hours. People these days don't have patience to watch a 2.5 hour movie also. So that means every day if you have to give that much effort for years, then that can only happen if you have interest in the subject. If you choose the easiest subject and you don't have enough interest to give that effort, then you won't be able to clear the exam. You understood? So this is the most important aspect. All the other aspects will fade in comparison to your interest in the subject. If you have very strong interest, if you take even the most difficult subject, you will be able to put in that effort, and it won't feel like effort to you because you have interest in the subject. You understood this? So if you have interest in any other subject, I suggest you actually choose that subject. Some people have literature flair and they like that subject. It is better to choose that subject because then you will be able to put that effort in that subject. Some people like political science or public administration, whichever you like. Do some research. Here I am going to take only 1 hour, Manjunath sir will take 1 hour. But ideally if you spend around 15-20 hours, then you will get to know what is exactly there in each important 3 subjects. Imagine you are chosen, among them you want to choose, you have to spend this much time to actually go through the entire syllabus, previous year's questions, what toppers are saying and the entire thing. Then you will get a good idea on that subject. Then you will know in which subject actually my interest lies. After that, other things are all 80% of importance is given to interest in the subject. Remaining everything else, trend of scores, here public administration in recent times does not have a problem. Syllabus should be concise. There are subjects, lot of around probably 7 to 10 subjects are there where concise syllabus is there. Public administration is one of them. Overlap with GS, probably this is highest in public administration. Others also there. In public administration there is probably 35% overlap. If you take PSIR, it is around 25% overlap. So depending upon which subject you take, there is overlap is there, but how much is there, it will differ. Then availability of material guidance is not a problem at all because it has been a popular subject for decades now. It's not just recent type of popularity. Why this is the right reason, that is interest in the subject. It will help you work in difficult times. Difficult times means most people have imagined UPSC preparation to be like, okay, I will join coaching, I will wake up at 5 every day and I will study for 12 hours a day for entire year. Problem is this will never happen in reality. Not even for the person who is getting first rank, also it will not happen. Because there will always be difficult times where you lose motivation, or maybe you are not well for 2-3 days, or there is some wedding in the family or some other thing will be there. That means there will always be breaks. Even if you take any toppers also, they will also have breaks. How fast you get back from this break is what matters here. Imagine you have a break, you are on a break and you are unable to study. If you have a very strong interest in the subject, even during that time when you have lost motivation, you will still want to study this subject. Maybe you won't be able to study for 3 hours, but you will study half an hour. And that will make a difference because there are probably out of 300 days, there are 50 days like this. And on those 50 days, if you have put in half an hour of effort, that is 25 hours of extra effort that you have put in compared to everybody else. You understood? So it will help you in those times when other people are unable to study because they don't have any interest or motivation in the subject. We are in the end human beings. Human beings cannot work like robots every day. Like I said, I have given 5 mains and initially I had the same type of assumption that okay, I will work like a robot for entire 1 year and I will clear the exam. After first attempt I felt okay, this time I didn't do properly, second time I'll do it well, third time I'll do it well, fourth time I'll do it well, and it never happened, and it did happen maybe up to 70%, 80% it happened, and that's why we got our scores were improving, everything was going in the right direction, but it was not enough. Then it was only after I started teaching that I realized that this entire perfectionist mindset itself is wrong. When I spoke to all the toppers, what they did was not very different from what we did, just that they were doing it maybe slightly, marginally better, 5% better, 10% better. If I was consistent for 80 days, this person who got 15th rank was consistent 85 days in that 100 days. You understood this? This is the only thing, you just have to be better than others. There's nobody who is going to be perfect on every day. And how you can be better, how you can get that extra edge of 5 days is if you choose the right optional where you have interest in the subject. You understood this? Then it will help you explore, know and understand better. Imagine in class we teach you something, you get curious about it and you do a Google search and you find extra 2 points about it which are interesting to you. That will add some sort of uniqueness to your answer and you will get extra 1 mark in your answer because you have written something other people haven't written. Or you have, out of your own interest, you went and did some extra research. So that will not happen if you don't have interest in the subject. If you have interest, then you will Google it and you identify one more example, you write it. So that will also add marks in your exam. Then everybody has to put in the effort, that is how this game is and there is no other way here. But if you like it, if you like the subject, then it won't feel like effort. It will feel like, okay, I'm doing what I like. You understood? So this is why it is important to have strong interest in the subject. So only then choose the subject. If you have doubts about your interest in that subject, then don't choose that subject. So what should you do? Go through the syllabus. That means in entire syllabus, you take any word, you should be able to tell 1 or 2 lines about that word. What does it mean? General meaning. You don't need to go into technical details. You should know everything, whatever is there, and you should know 1 or 2 lines about it. So this takes around 3 to 4 hours to understand the entire syllabus, what is there and what it is. If you are able to do that, then you have got this bird's eye view macro picture of the entire subject. Then go to previous years, last 10 years question papers, read all the questions, try to map out, okay, this question they have asked about this. You don't need to know the answer, you just need to know, okay, this is the question, I read that, okay, term in this syllabus, in this first chapter, in this 4th chapter, etc. So when you do this, you have got a overall view about the subject, you will start getting a sense of the subject. What is it that exam UPSC is expecting? What are they asking in questions? What is there in syllabus? You understand? So this if you can do, actually if you still haven't chosen the subject, then imagine you have 2 or 3 subjects in mind. Do it for all of them. Then you will start understanding, okay, one subject is more interesting to me compared to the other 2. Then it is easier for you to make that choice. You understand? It is better to put this effort beforehand. There are people who want to change the optional after half of the classes are over. Many people have changed from sociology to literature, literature to public administration. This sort of change keeps happening every year. But if you do it after half the classes are over, it is a massive waste of effort that you've already put in. Consider it like choosing an optional is like getting married. If you put that effort before and choose the right optional before itself, then it will save you a lot of time, effort and unnecessary amount of pain later on, because you have to get divorced to one optional and then get married to another optional. It is not going to be easy. You understood this? Most people who do this are lost in this entire process only, because now they have to do some new subject from beginning, 500 marks worth of it. They won't get enough time even to do GS also, and their entire preparation will take a hit because of this one mistake that they do. This is why I suggest that you have to take like 15-20 hours in the beginning and then choose one subject. Once you choose that subject, you should not have doubts after you choose that subject. It's like having doubts after you get married. Then there is no use of, you can say, if you have doubts, then don't get married. If you don't have doubts only, then get married. You understood this? So once you have chosen, nothing should affect you. You just go through with it, and so that's basically no other person trying to tell you, or no other thought should come into your mind that I have to change this optional or something. So change in pattern of question I already discussed. Earlier it was possible to leave some topics in the choice, but now it's not possible. They have mixed it up in such a way that you won't be able to leave any chapter, any topic. Everything you have to study whatever is in syllabus. But even though it is like this, priority of every topic is not same. There are around 12 or 13, imagine, just for example, imagine 12 chapters are there in paper 1, paper 2. First 4 chapters in paper 1 will actually hold around 180 out of 200 marks, 250 marks. That means these first 4 chapters are the most important, and actually we will take probably 50% of the time, because that is how questions are coming. 50% time to cover this first 4. Others are all very small chapters. These are the building blocks. In these first 4 units we will make bricks, and here you should have understanding of this. Bricks will be arranged together to build some sort of, you can say, a building. You understand? So foundational concepts are all in the first 4 units, and we will take more time, and it has more weightage, and number of questions coming from these chapters is also more. So even though every topic you have to study, all topics don't have equal weightage. There is different weightage for different topic. Depending upon in class how much attention we give to that topic, you can understand, okay, this is an important topic, this is more important, less important topic. So here I just want to give you a broad overview. You have to go through it, like I said, 3 to 4 hours and understand each word here. But I will just give a bird's eye view of paper 1. Paper 2, Manjunath sir will take, but in paper 1, I'll just give some sort of overview. First, like I said, first 4 chapters: administrative theory, administrative thought, administrative behavior, and organizations. These are the first 4 chapters. All the theoretical aspect is involved in first 4 chapters itself. So what we do here is, we will study theory first, then in paper 2 it's all, you can say, Indian administration. This is how they have created the subject. But how they expect answer is, if they give theoretical question, as a practitioner you need to still write examples from practice. That means from Indian administration. So to give a simple example, consider this subject is similar to medicine. How is it similar to medicine? In fact, when we start studying, many thinkers have said that it is similar to medicine. There is a research component to it. That means medical research keeps happening or not. Anybody knows how medical research is done? They will find some new symptoms. They don't have any idea about why this is happening. Then they will do research. They will identify some pathogen. There is some virus that is causing this. Then they will try to find some solution. Is there any cure to this? Is there any vaccine to this? Once they identify that, okay, this is how COVID, imagine COVID. Once it came, we didn't know what it is, how it happens, how it works. Then we started identifying, okay, it is a heavy virus. If you wear mask, it won't spread. And if you use sanitizer, it won't spread. Then we invented a vaccine. So that means after doing research, we now have a solution. Now a practicing doctor, this person will know what COVID is. This person will know when we encounter COVID, what should we do? What will they usually do? They will isolate this person. They will put them in quarantine for so many days. You don't come in contact with other people, wear mask and use sanitizer and such other things. Because now we understand the problem. And same thing in public administration, we have faced these problems. Government has faced problems multiple times. Same problems everywhere. Health, public health is a problem, sanitation is a problem, traffic is a problem, some potholes are a problem, and monsoon rains happen, and then you can say urban flooding is a problem. These are not just problems in India, these are problems around the world. And when we have faced these problems so many times, then we identify patterns that okay, for this problem, these type of solutions will work. So theoretical people, theorists like medical researchers who do research on COVID, there are researchers in public administration also. What they do is they will write, okay, this is a solution. And once they write the solution, what does a practitioner do? Imagine in Bangalore there are floods because of heavy rainfall during monsoon. Some last year there was in Koramangala and such others, there was heavy flooding. Now we know, okay, heavy flooding in urban areas has already happened probably 300 times across the world, in Beijing and you can say in Africa and in USA, etc. Then we know what are the root causes of this. People throw plastic covers here and there, and then when rainfall happens, it will clog the drains and then water fills up. So once we understand root causes, then we know what to resolve, how to resolve this. So there is a clear standard operating procedure on how to resolve this. Some researchers already identified it. What should a practitioner do? Practitioner, he should use this, and along with that knowledge of local problems, local terrain, etc., and solve that problem quickly as much as possible. You understood? There is a practice component to this and there is a theory component to this. How a doctor will use theory basically to solve problem? They will read a medical textbook and they will actually implement it on a patient. And same thing, you read public administration textbook and you will implement it on a problem that country is facing or government is facing. You understood this? And paper 1 is supposed to be this theory, paper 2 is supposed to be how this theory plays out in Indian administration. Although papers are divided like this, they expect you to write this theory in paper 2 also, and they expect you to write examples from paper 2 in paper 1 also, because this is how a practitioner thinks. In the mind of the practitioner, there is no wall between theory and practice. Everything is mixed up together, and that's how you have to think also. You understood? So in introduction chapter, introduction is like the trailer to entire public administration movie. Here you won't know everything about the entire subject, but you will get a broad idea. Imagine you watch a trailer. What can you tell about the movie? You can tell what genre it is. You can easily know whether it is a comedy movie or horror movie or something once you watch the trailer. Same thing here also. Once you go through this first unit, then you will get to know what exactly is there in this entire subject. It will give you a overview of entire subject. So then after this, administrative thought. In administrative thought, you will study all the thinkers and theories. Since public administration as a subject began, what all people have identified as problems and how they have tried to solve it. So you can see basically bureaucracy, Weber's bureaucratic model, human relations. Whenever we are talking about any organization, I will usually draw this triangle. Anybody has worked here before? None of you have worked. Okay, if you go to work, usually they will have manager like this, and under manager they will say 3 people are working, they would have written names. This is called organizational chart. In every office they will put it on a wall. In most of the offices today also they have this. If you go to some Burger King or KFC also, inside the kitchen they will have this, that this person is a manager, under him these people are there, under him these people are there. This is called as an organizational chart. So that there is clarity on who reports to who. If this person wants leave, who should he ask? So this is what is organizational chart. You understand? Why is it a pyramid? Because it looks like, you can see number of people working at the bottom are more, at the top are less, and that is why it looks like a pyramid. So this is basically bureaucratic model. We will study what it is here, and human relations. That means relationship between this person, boss and subordinate, how it should be, how it is, what type of problems it creates, how you should have human relations within your organization. Imagine you become district collector, what type of relations you have to maintain with your subordinates, superiors, co-workers and such other things. So Similarly, we have decision making theory. That means usually district collectors, they will make around, you can say, 100 200 decisions a day. How to make sure you take better decisions, good decisions. In decision making theory, we will discuss about how we can make each of you a better decision maker, how normally people take decisions, how you can improve this entire process. This is all practical. Like I said, you can see here a lot of practical aspects are there. If you internalize this, internalize means it should become common sense. It is not something you study like in school or college and you write an exam and forget about it. What is internalized? Consider addition is internalized in your mind. That means 2 plus 2 is 4, you do everyday calculation and that is internalization. That sort of internalization, if it happens, then you will automatically become a better practitioner. That means you know how to take better decisions in everyday life also and in your role also. So we will study about this. And participative management means how to make sure that all your subordinates will also participate in this, in solving a problem. Imagine you have set a problem and you have set a goal. To achieve this goal, how to make sure they will also give ideas and they will also come up with solutions and you all as a team will solve this problem. So here I have just given examples of what we are going to study in this particular unit. Then administrative behavior. Here also we will study a lot of decision making models, how people take decisions, how to make quick decisions. For example, imagine you are taking regular decision, normal everyday decision. If it is a reversible decision, that means you can easily reverse that decision. You have to take it very quickly because if it goes wrong, you can always reverse it. If it is irreversible, then you have to think about it properly and then take that decision. So this is a very simple model. And similarly, there are slightly complex models like this on how to take decisions quickly, how to take them in such a way that you will be better decision maker overall. You understood this? For example, take a decision here. You want to decide what to do today. How to, you can say, decide what should I prepare for exam today. So if there is no decision model, what happens usually is people will choose the subject that will make them feel better. Imagine polity is making you feel better because you have good understanding, good grip on the subject. Most of the students, what they do is whenever they feel insecure, they take up polity only because then it will make them feel better. But is it good for the exam? No, you have to focus on other subjects also which you may not have that kind of, you can say, grip. So in decision making theory, we will discuss about, you can say, models of decision making in such a way that you will identify what should I do today, how to prioritize it. If we don't prioritize, what would happen? This is basically, decision making models. Then we'll discuss about communication and motivation also. Means communication here means within the organization how you communicate with superiors. Communication is not language or something. Communication is how to make sure everybody understands each other properly and what aspect should be communicated to subordinates, superiors. Why a decision was taken. Imagine a promotion happens in the organization. If everybody knows that why this person was promoted, then there is no problem. But imagine nobody knows and suddenly one person is promoted. Then what will happen in the organization? Then people will start rumors. They will say that boss is same caste as this person, that is why they have promoted this person. Or they will say this person is given bribe to get promoted. You understood? Communication means how to make sure that organization runs smoothly by giving out the necessary information to necessary people. So that also we will study. And then there is also theories of leadership and motivation. In government, you can see usually if you go to any government office, you will see a general lack of motivation. Anybody has been to SBI? If you go into an SBI branch, then you will feel like unwelcome there. That means you go and they will tell you come after lunch or something. Every time I go there, they will say come. In fact, SBI, if you look at the symbol, it looks like a lunch box only. They are perpetually in lunch. That means basically there is no motivation to work. So in motivation theories, what we do is we study how motivation works, how individuals are motivated, why in government they are not motivated, what you can do to ensure that they get motivated and your goals, organization's goals are achieved. You understood this? So this is administrative behavior. Here we discuss about decision making, motivation, leadership, how you can be a good leader. Leadership is basically a skill that anybody can learn and become good leaders, and how to learn that skill, what are the essential traits and qualities, how to become a good leader is also discussed in administrative behavior. Then we discuss organizations. So organization here means anybody can tell me what is just general meaning of organization? Set of people. Why do we need organization? Why can't we just do without organization? So, okay, but why do we need all this? Work efficiency. So imagine we have a goal. To achieve this goal, one person cannot achieve this. Imagine we have a goal of sending Mangalyaan to Mars. There is no one person in the entire world who has all the skills necessary to send some piece of metal to Mars. That means we need coordination between probably thousands of people. When more than one person is involved to achieve a goal, there is a second person, then coordination becomes necessary between them. Communication becomes necessary. Both of them are trying to achieve the same goal. This is what we call as organization. How organizations work, how coordination, communication works, why some are successful, why ISRO is successful, why DRDO is not as successful, what is that factors that are missing here and working there. So this is what we will study in organization. Organization, building the pyramids required organization, or building basically Virupaksha temple, everything which you can say takes effort from more than one person requires organization. Imagine a stone has to be moved from one location to another. More than one person are necessary. Two people come together. Imagine both of them lift the stone and they push in different directions. Then there is no organization. Organization is when they will communicate to each other that I am now lifting, I am now dropping, and I am now moving in this direction. Then there is organization. You understand? Here we have just taken a simplistic example of two people. As complex organizations arise and what happens within these organizations and how to make sure that organizations will actually bring out results. Like I said, here also it is practitioner oriented. Ultimately, how to make sure that we will get success in the organization. That is the goal. These are the four most important chapters for entire paper 1. Other aspects are relatively simple. Accountability and control. That means when you get into government, imagine you are now government employee, you are in IAS. Accountability means for your actions there you have to be responsible. There has to be responsibility means some goals are given to you, some roles are given to you. Acting accordingly is your responsibility. Somebody will check this. For example, CAG, CVC, CBI, they are all there to make sure that corruption will not happen here. This is what is accountability. Even courts are there. So, how bureaucrats are controlled using all these mechanisms is accountability and control. Why is there a need for this control? Because a lot of power is given to bureaucracy and bureaucrats. So that they don't misuse this power, we need accountability and control. You understand? What are the mechanisms of accountability? How they will be held accountable? This is what you study here. Then administrative law is very simple. Law that is applicable only to bureaucracy and not to general people. For example, consider Prevention of Corruption Act. Who is it applicable on? Only government employees. Random people working in TCS, it's not applicable on, you can say, people working in private sector. It is only applicable in government sector. There are many laws like this which are applicable only for government. So this is general aspect of administrative law. As you go deeper, you will start understanding in much more detail. There are subsets within this administrative law. Then comparative public administration. This you can only tell me what does it mean. As the name suggests, what do we study? Comparative means we do a comparison. Imagine India has poverty, China also had it, Brazil also has it. So how are they all solving their poverty? Once we know that, okay, this is the solution, then we can also borrow some things from them and implement in India whatever has worked there. This is how comparative public administration works. You understand? So here we will study different countries' administrative mechanisms, what we have borrowed from them. In polity, probably you would have studied that in constitution itself we have borrowed a lot of things from other constitutions. Similarly, in administrative systems, schemes and programs also we have borrowed a lot of things, and many people have borrowed from us also. So this is how comparison happens. Then development dynamics. So in this chapter what we study is developing countries are different from developed countries. What is the meaning of a developing country? How is it defined? As of now, it is defined based on income, average income of a person in the country. In India, average income is low. In USA, European Union, average incomes are high. Those are developed countries. In a developing country where average income itself is low, the taxes we can pay is low. What the government can do is also, government's resources are also low. Because if we are not getting enough money, how will they get money? They are taxing us. Government has less resources, bigger problems. How they can solve bigger problems using less resources is development dynamics. The challenges of developing countries are much bigger and much difficult, and that is why we study them separately in development administration. You understood this? Then personnel administration. This is very simple. HR role in normal companies. This is what we call as personnel administration in government. What does HR do? They will deal with recruitment, promotion. In government there is transfer, posting, and there is also suspension and disciplinary type of actions. All these things will come under personnel administration. Then public policy. How government makes policy. Policy means, what is general meaning of policy? Some sort of, what is government's intention or decision, that is basically policy. How government makes policy from beginning to end, how this whole policy plays out is in public policy chapter you will study. So techniques of administrative improvement. As the name suggests, how we can improve administration is basically techniques of administrative improvement. They have just given some techniques when they framed the syllabus, whatever techniques were there, they have given there. But UPSC asks general questions on how you can improve administration overall, broadly. For example, we are now using AI in administration, that will also come under techniques of administrative improvement. Consider there is project Insight, not Insights. This project Insight has been adopted by Central Board of Direct Taxes, CBDT. What they do is it will scan all social media profiles, Instagram, etc. On Instagram, this person has posted they have bought Range Rover, but in income tax filing they have showed their income was only 10 lakh per year. So it will identify there is a discrepancy between these two, it will flag it. A red flag is sent to some IRS officer, they will send a notice on how you bought this Range Rover. You understood? So this is going to make it easier to collect tax or not. This is techniques of administrative improvement. We are using different technologies, techniques to make sure that government can achieve its goal or do its job easily. Then financial administration. So this will have overlap with some little bit of Indian economy part of syllabus. So here we will study about how government finances work, how government gets money, that is by tax, where it spends money on infrastructure, on welfare schemes, etc. Money coming in, money going out, we will see in financial administration. This is basically paper 1. Most of the chapters in paper 1 I am going to take. Paper 2, most of the chapters Manjunath sir is going to take. Some swaps will be there because there is overlap between paper 1 and paper 2. We merge them together and I take some and he takes some. But in general, most of the things in paper 1 I will take. Any questions so far? Everybody is clear with this so far. So paper 2 syllabus and remaining part Manjunath sir will discuss. If you have any questions or doubts, you can send it to me on Telegram. Usually, generally common questions and doubts I just post here in this channel. In the channel description, if you go, you'll find my ID, you can send a message there. So, Manjunath sir will discuss paper 2 from here.
Okay, good morning all. So assume I think by now at least you have got a fair idea about what all will be the part of public administration syllabus, right? See, point number 1, so because normally students keep having a confusion between, sir, what exactly is the difference between political science optional and public administration optional? At least again I'm just clarifying so that you get a better idea. In political science mostly they talk about what? The theories of state, means how the concept of, remember in polity we mostly, I mean assuming polity would have done for so many, I mean at least most of you guys. So like you might have heard something called a social contract theory. So how the concept of state evolved, what is social contract theory, or if you have heard thinkers like Aristotle, Socrates, those kind of one, how democracy evolved, or how is, what is the concept of rights from the old times. All these angles, liberty angle, this, that, very in-depth angle they'll discuss, mostly about the theories of the state, about theories of democracy, that angle they discuss more here. Understood? It is a foundation of the concept of state. What we discuss here in public administration, as the name says, is public administration. To be more simple, take it as bureaucracy. How bureaucracy functions in Indian context, not just in Indian context, overall. That is very basic idea. But of course, it is not just about bureaucracy, as they would have discussed, recall, in the beginning they would have told you what they call it as, look at it, introduction, administrative thought, all those things. Because before understanding, because ultimately bureaucracy is what, it is civil service, what you call it as, all of those things. It's an organization. Organization means what, as Sailesh was saying, simple group of people working together to achieve a common goal. Everybody will have a common goal. If you take Inside IAS, Inside IAS is an organization because you have so many people, your faculties, you will have Venecer and then faculties and then so many evaluation people, content people, imagine how many people will work together, that's an organization. So we will have a goal. Like for example, you take company, like let's say for example you take Reliance, it's an organization. So imagine how many people will be working for Reliance across the country or probably across the world. They'll have some common goal to increase the profit, this, that, at least we'll have a fair idea. That's an organization. Same way, government is also an organization. Within that, bureaucracy is also an organization. Fine, if you take Department of, let's say, Ministry of Home Affairs, that's an organization. They will have a goal. Ministry of Defense, organization. What is their goal? As the name it says, Ministry of Defense. What is the goal of Ministry of Defense? To make sure that the defense means what? External security, that the India is protected from any kind of external threats. Home Affairs, its goal is what? To make sure that India is protected from any kind of internal threats. Ministry of Finance, remember yesterday, day before you had the budget, even now you might have seen continuously discussions are going on, all those things. Now what is the role of Ministry of Defense? Within a bigger organization called as Government of India, Ministry of Finance itself is an organization. Remember they call it as ministry, department, all of those things, sub goals, so many things are there, those technical points let's avoid. So they will have a common goal. Means what? To make sure that India's fiscal deficit is under control, inflation is under control. So when infrastructure money is allocated properly to every sector, because imagine they have to allocate money for poverty programs also, they have to allocate it for education, they have to allocate it for health, everything they have to allocate. You might have seen now criticisms going on that why did you allocate more for so and so states, why not for other states, what about federalism angle, so many things you will be hearing. So everything is an organization by that definition. Now imagine how many people will be working in a big company. How do you make sure that everybody contributes their best? It is very easy to tell, but practically imagine if n number of people, let's say thousands or lakhs of people are working together, how do you get the best from each person? Because if you don't get the best from each person, how will your organization become the top one company? It's very simple logic. Now for that what matters? All of those things matter. Right from what is the structure of the organization? Structure means what? Simple terms, as he has mentioned. Simple word structure means what? If you have heard, for example, if you take Indian police as I told itself is an organization, and if you have heard, in fact it should have been a little more thing. approximately 90%, 88 somewhere like that, approximately 9%, approximately, or you can say around 1%. It's like this, means if there are 100 people, 100 police working, let's say if you take Karnataka police, around 90% of them are constables, head constables, ASIs, SIs. Getting a point right? Very simple logic. If 100 police are there for Karnataka, 100 people are working for Karnataka police, around 90 of them are constable, head constable, ASI, SI. Around 8-9% are, obviously, what is the next one? Inspectors or circle inspectors, whatever you call it as DYSP, these people. Then the so-called IPS, SP and above, how many? Just one. Why do you think IPS is so valued? This reason. Because within that organization you are at the top. Only 1%, actually it is less than 1%. Out of 100, not even one will be SP. So this is also a structure. Look at it, they call it as pyramidical structure. Pyramid, you know, basic pyramid. That too a pyramid with a very large base. Large means what? Lot of people are at which level? Lowest level or too many people. That's what you call as large base. That's a structure. So structure means what then? Who are at which level? For example, constable is a level, head constable is a level, SY is a level, DYSP is a level, SP is a level, commissioner is a level, DGP is a level. So how many levels you have? Fine. How is the relationship between the topmost person and the bottommost person? These are all what you call as the structural aspect. Technical words, you don't have to worry. Simple, you might have heard word called as hierarchy. Remember they keep telling hierarchy. Okay, in a hierarchy I am at the lower level, means somewhere there. In this hierarchy I am at the top. Let's say you are a minister, you will be at the top level. You are IAS, IPS, you will be at the top level. That's a hierarchy concept. All that we'll be studying here, right from structure, so many technical things you will get. As sir was talking about something called as motivation theories, leadership theories, so many things. Because for simple reason, imagine if you don't have a good leader, how do you think organization will succeed? Without a Mukesh Ambani, how Reliance will almost literally go away. Without a Ratan Tata, organization will literally go away. Without Elon Musk, it will go away. So like that, even for governments also leaders matter a lot, like let's say CMs, PMs. Why do you think they get? Because they are the leaders, they will lead. Within that there are so many types, that all we'll discuss later. So all that will come, I mean again, so many angles, they would have, at least sir would have briefly told you about something called as classical theory and then something called as humanistic theory, participative theory, so many things. In simple terms, for a long time, actually public administration as an optional or as a what you call a separate discipline, optional means we call it is here. For a long time, political science and public administration, they were all together only. More focus was on theory, state, all of those things. Gradually what they realized was, remember they keep telling industrial revolution. As industrial revolution started to get bigger and bigger, so we started to have large companies. Large companies means what? Too many people, too much of profits, everything. Then they started to find the new problem. How do you manage such big organization? Because you can't manage. Imagine, okay, if you are working, imagine let's say 500 years back, 400 years back something. You will have a, what you call it, technology was not improved, communication was not there, there is nothing called as these huge companies. Wherever you will have people, there only you will have company. In your small village, in your small town, that's it. Imagine today, you will have branch offices across the country. What, do you expect the same person to go to every branch office and oversee, monitor the functioning? Is it possible? Is it possible for Ratan Tata to come to TCS offices, Tata Motors, this, that, everywhere, every day and then monitor your functioning? So gradually what they realized, okay, we need to create something called as organizations. That's when the concept called as classical theory evolved. In simple term, classical theories, classical means what? Old theories, original kind of a theories. They emerged because we had a challenge to manage large organizations. And so that's the first part aspect, theory aspects. Then gradually in the beginning they realized that, okay, just pay the money to people, people will work. That was the belief for a long time, 30-40 years, 1880s to 1920s, 30s. Because they were looked at that, that's what you call it as economic man. Look at the word economic man, means what? You just have to pay money to your workers, they'll put their effort. Fine, monistic theory they tell, means there is no other aspect they considered. They did not talk about, okay, is the employee happy to work with my organization? Does he have any family issues? Is he and his superior has good relationship? Is he happy with his position? Now imagine for a simple logics, for example, you might have seen so many people who get into bureaucracy also. After 5-10 years, they resign. If you have seen so many people take voluntary retirement, why do they do that? Because imagine their positions. Actually, their positions are very, very good. You might have seen IAS, or I mean IPS officers, even sometimes IAS, IRS officers. You might have seen so many IRS officers are running institutions. You might have seen in YouTube and all those things. Why do you think they are doing it? Because the expectation and the reality has unfortunately not matched. Second ARC also says this, that the people who are getting into civil services are matured personalities. Means what? They need more autonomy, freedom, responsibility, decision making power. But bureaucracy doesn't function like that, because you have to work under whom? You have to work under a lot of rules and regulations, you have to work under ministers, and there is so much of seniors, and seniors will not allow you to take decisions all of a sudden. That's why what a lot of people feel, they feel disillusioned. Disillusioned means what? Your expectation is something, reality is something. Then they start feeling, okay, I can't work here, there is no scope for my innovation. Then what they do, they'll sustain for maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Gradually they realize, because obviously you practically think, if you want to do so many things, but you have a lot of restrictions, what will you feel over a period of time? Okay, this is not my space. That's what few people feel. What a lot of others do, more than 90% what they do, they get adjusted. They feel, okay, fine. This is the organizational work culture, means this is how bureaucracy functions. So you have to socialize yourself. Okay, I cannot expect to work like a private sector, because in private sector, restrictions are less, relatively less. Here, restrictions are more, because it's not your company, it's ultimately people's government, it's ultimately Prime Minister's government, Chief Minister's government, Minister's government. Hence, automatically they'll get socialized. All these are what you call it as motivations, leadership, this, that, so many aspects is what in the largely we study in paper 1. Fine. And then personal administration, all those things you will have a fair idea. In paper 2, what we study largely is Indian administration, as the name itself says, Indian context, how in India administration has evolved. Obviously, if you can recall, the world, India's first most important, you can say, work or anything on administration or state, which is what Kautilya's Arthashastra. So what did Kautilya talk about bureaucracy in Arthashastra? We'll start with that. Look at the term itself, that's why. Evolution of Indian administration. If you have heard famous things, Kautilya in Arthashastra itself had described 40 types of corruption. Even today under Prevention of Corruption Act 1989, you have 27 types of corruption. Kautilya had mentioned 40. If you have heard those famous statements, Kautilya says that bureaucrat is like a fish in water. Fine. So like how you will never get to know how much water does a fish drink, you will never, it is very difficult to identify how much corruption does a civil servant get involved in. So hence it is very important to have very strict anti-corruption laws. He also says, if you have heard the statement that what do you call as this, corruption is like what, you put a nectar on the tip of the tongue, honey on the tip of the tongue, and you are asking the person not to taste it. How will you know, how will he not taste it? Even if you don't want to taste it, your tongue would have already tasted it. So that's what he says. It is very difficult to prevent corruption in the system. It takes a lot of effort. For that, how to tackle it, he comes up with so many measures. Of course, there are so many things. If you have heard Saptanga theory, Mandala theory, like that, all we'll discuss later. Matsya Nyaya, if you have heard in polity also, I keep telling, Matsya Nyaya is nothing but today's social contract theory. Matsya Nyaya, Matsya means what? Fish. So big fish will dominate, small fish is what you call as Matsya Nyaya. Means what he says, originally society works in such a way that it favors the strongest. Big fish will dominate small fish, rich will dominate poor, or men will dominate women. But if you want civilization, society to function, you cannot have this continue. That may work in jungle, like forest, where the dominant animal may dominate the relatively whatever the what do you call as this weak animals, all those things. But how will society function like that? To replace that only social contract theory, he did not mention obviously, but he mentions people chose someone as their king, Manu as their king, like that he keeps talking about that. That we'll discuss, and then we'll discuss Mughals. Obviously in Mughals, if ancient medieval is done, you would have heard, remember Mansabdari system, Akbar's. So how Mansabdari system function, all of those. We will not study cultural aspects here, because it is public administration, we will only study what? How the Mughal administration functioned. Then the British administration, obviously the position of IAS, the position, you look at this one, this chapter is entirely about that. district administration since independence. Fine. Before that, district administration means what largely? The headed by obviously whom? DC, DM. So how the position of DC first of all evolved? If you can recall, actually it was started by Lord Warren Hastings in 1772. When 1772, but to the major credit is given to, if you have heard that during British era, who is called as the father of civil service? Lord Cornwallis. Lord Cornwallis restructured civil service. Yeah, I don't know, sometimes I tell in politics, sometimes I don't. He divided civil services into two, covenanted, non-covenanted. Who? Lord Cornwallis. Simple terms, covenanted means superior services like IAS, IPS, those kind of even, where only British allowed. Sometimes Europeans, largely British. Non-covenanted, you logically think if covenanted are superior, what will be non-covenanted? If covenanted are superior services, topmost services, what will be non-covenanted services? Inferior services, lower services, group C, group T kind of even today what you call it as, where only who were allowed then? Indians were allowed only in non-covenanted services. We were not allowed into covenanted. That's why if you can recall, 1853 Act allowed open competition in covenanted services. Means what? For the first time, Indians were allowed to write exam, what you call as the today's civil service exam, based on which act? 1853 Act. That's why if in case modern India, then they would have told you Satyendranath Tagore was the first person to clear the exam. Satyendranath Tagore is what? Rabindranath Tagore's brother. So he was the first person to clear the civil service exam. Covenanted civil services, and at that time till 1920s civil service exam was only conducted in London. You have to go and write the exam there, which was largely based on Lord Macaulay committee. Lord Macaulay, Thomas Babington Macaulay, who is what? Who is the person who laid the foundation for English education in India, who is the person who laid the foundation for the civil service exams also. Lord Macaulay had told that the civil service exam should be a generalist exam. Generalist means what? Means you should test the ability of a candidate from all the dimension. He should know something about history, geography, literature, this, that, everything. That's why you look at your syllabus today. In GS1 you will have history, culture, geography, society. In GS2 you will have polity, governance, social justice, IR. All of that. That means if you look at it, you will study each and everything. Because Lord Macaulay had told that civil servants should have a generalist mindset. He had not told civil servants should have a specialist mindset. If he had recommended that, the nature of civil services would have been completely different. So even today, that's why if you have heard that famous statement, they keep telling that the Lord Macaulay's demons, spirit, even today roams in the corridors of UPSC, that tell. Means whatever Lord Macaulay had told, more or less even today, UPSC functions the same way. What to test in a interview, what you call as personality test, all of those things he had told long back, 1853, 1854, Lord Macaulay Committee on Civil Services. Now all of that is what technically we call as Indianization of civil service. Gradually Indians increase in civil service. By the time of India's independence, you can largely assume 50% were Indians, 50% were British. Means where in the top services, IAS, IPS, that kind of a one. Gradually things changed. That is district administration since independence. But if you can recall, we keep using a word called as during British rule in India, we had something called as ruling bureaucracy. Ruling bureaucracy means what? Bureaucracy itself was ruling. For simple reason, what we did not have? We did not have elections. We did not have democracy. So right from Governor General of India, that means Lord Mountbatten, Lord Irwin, anybody you call it as, to anybody, district commissioner, everybody were what? They were not elected people. What are they? They are all bureaucrats, companies' servants. Of course, company rule was not there. I mean after 1857, but still you can take it as bureaucrats. That's why ruling bureaucracy means what? Bureaucracy itself was ruling. They were taking the decisions. Fine. But logically you think, after India's independence, when you have a constitution, when you will have a universal adult franchise, free and fair election, can you have bureaucracy taking all the decisions? Automatically, when you say democracy, who will become the decision makers? Elected people became the decision makers. MPs, MLAs, ministers. Gradually what happened? Bureaucracy's role, in other words, started to gradually reduce because democracy started to become more dominant. So that's what, how it has changed over a period of time. That's all we need to discuss. Fine. For DC, if you have heard famous statement, during British time he was famously called as Little Napoleon. Napoleon is what? Napoleon was the dictator of France. Little Napoleon means what? DC is like a little dictator in India. There was very famous statements he were called as that not a single sparrow should die in the district without it coming to the notice of the DC. No, you should not take it literally. It means what? It shows how important was the position of DC. And so like that so many statements are there. DC was famously described as he is a little tortoise. Tortoise means, understand, right? On whose back the elephantine size of the government of India runs. Means the entire government of India is like an elephant. And DC is like what? Tortoise. So tortoise has to carry the burden of the elephant. In other words, what does that mean? Everything that government of India tries to do, ultimately who has to implement it on ground? DC will have the responsibility. So DC is like a tortoise carrying the elephantine size burden of the government. Like that so many things are there. Same way, whatever I told you, remember police angle, that's this question, this chapter, look at it. Law and Order Administration, Indian Police Act 1861. So how police has evolved over a period of time. There are so many types, technical words I will not get into it, Royal Irish Constabulary System, like that, all of those things are there. Remember that pyramidal structure, there was a reason. I told you, remember 90% are police, constable at constable. That 90% were Indians. In fact, more than 90%, whatever the second category. So where will the British be then? Only which roles? SP and above. So IPS and above, everything was British. Whatever below were there were we Indians. So that is how they control. Decision making power, everything will be with whom? 1%. Who will execute things on ground? 90-95%. That will be Indians. So that means British structured Indian police in such a way that it is favorable for them. Understood? So unfortunately, we keep continuing the same structure even today. If you have heard, there are very famous committees, Dharamveera Commission, Padmanabhaya Committee, Prakash Singh Guidelines of Supreme Court, like that, so many things. But even today, largely there is no change in Indian police structure. Clear? And then if you have heard, look at the words there, criminalization of politics. In fact, there is another word called as politicization of criminals. In simple terms means what? Remember, we keep telling facts that in the 18th Lok Sabha now, how many people with, how many Lok Sabha MPs have criminal charges against them? 46% MPs. Means if there are 100 Lok Sabha MPs today, 46 MPs have criminal charges, criminal cases pending against them. How did this happen? Why did it happen? That is concept called as criminalization of politics. There is a phase, Nehru era, Indira Gandhi era, Rajiv Gandhi era, and then coalition government era, Narendra Modi era, like that. Over a period of time, how things have changed. And how will that impact police? All of that will study under your Law and Order Administration. You simple logic you think. Let's say for example your MP, whatever, some MP, some district MP, he is elected as already an MP, but he has criminal cases against him. Do you think he will allow the police to do investigation properly? Because if he allows police to do investigation properly, then who has to go to jail? You have to go to jail. Why will he allow you to do investigation then? So what will he do? If his government is in power, he will just tell the minister, minister will tell you, leave the case or compromise the investigation, this, that, everything, so that the MP should not go to jail. So that's why unfortunately India conviction rate is very less. Conviction rate means what? If there are 100 cases, less than 10 cases will get proven in the courts because evidence is not there, investigation is not done properly. All of those aspects is your Law and Order Administration. Like that, so many things are there. See, this is typical your polity. Rural development, in other words what? Obviously which one? Panchayats, urban development, municipalities, whatever you study in polity, if it is not done, you will obviously understand. Of course, there we will only study 73rd, 74. Here we have to go a little more in depth. But at the core it is the same. Look at this. This I don't even have to tell. Union government and administration, state government and administration, nothing but what? How parliament functions, how judiciary functions, how president functions, prime minister functions, governor functions, center-state relations, federalism. Remember cooperative federalism, competitive federalism, all of that. Of course, few extra are there. Like for example, you look at this. This we don't study in polity. All of this. Like for example, Prime Minister's office, Cabinet Secretariat, Chief Secretariat, that all we don't study in polity. That's typical public administration. Other aspects, if you have seen Parliament, Judiciary, all of those are all same. Understood? For example, at the state level, who is the topmost civil servant? Chief Secretary. Same position at the national level is called as what? Cabinet Secretary. What is the difference between Cabinet Secretary and Chief Secretary? When you have Cabinet Secretary there, why do you have PMO then, Prime Minister's Office? Simple logic if you have heard, whenever you have a strong PMO, strong Prime Minister, automatically PMO is very strong. That's why in Indian history, PMO was very strong during Indira Gandhi era, Rajiv Gandhi era, and obviously 3 during Narendra Modi era. For simple reason, what all of them are? All of them are very, very popular, powerful, strong prime ministers. So then what they will do? Because they know that they are the face of the government, any major decision making, they will not discuss it in the cabinet. Where they will discuss where? They will take the individual decision in their office. Because nobody else will oppose you. How will you logically think 2014 to 2024, can any minister oppose Narendra Modi? Is it possible first of all? If you oppose it, and then can you remain as minister? Hence automatically PMO was powerful. Things will change now, because now what we have? Now coalition government. Now look at that here. Problems of administration in coalition regime means in a coalition government how things will change. Look at it now, automatically what will happen? Few regional parties will start dominating the government, like how if you have seen now, Bihar dominates in the budget, Andhra Pradesh dominates in the budget, because well, obviously why? The government is based on their support now. If they take out the support, things will change a lot. Automatically, regional parties will start dominating it. Same moral, no, not to this extent. I mean, this today is very less. Manmohan Singh era, it was very large domination, because it was a coalition of around 10, 12, 13 parties. Imagine with a coalition of India, I mean, as of now, it might be maybe 5, 6 major parties. With that itself, if you have so many compromises, imagine Manmohan Singh era, Vajpayee era with 10 to 15 political parties, how much of compromises will happen? That is technically called as compulsions of coalition. Manmohan Singh used to call it as compulsion. Compulsion means what? Compromise. You have to compromise a lot. Fine. That's why if you have seen now, UCC, not so easy now. Fine. One nation, one election, not so easy now. So many things, other things, whatever they used to tell, none of them is easy now. They may try to do it, we are not saying no, but it's not so easy for simple reason. If you try to do it, what they'll do? They'll just take out their support. Your government itself is gone. So that's why, how will that affect this coalition? How will coalition government have an impact on administration? Same way, remember I was telling Kautilya and all those things. Look at this. What do you mean by corruption? Why do you think in bureaucracy corruption continuously exists for a long time? What measures government of India has already taken to address corruption? What is the impact of corruption? What are the various theories related to corruption? All of that in detail we need to discuss. This is not an important topic. It's a kind of overlap with your which one? Remember in GS3 you study something called as disaster management. National Disaster Management Act 2005, Disaster Relief Fund, all of those things. Same way, in addition you can add which one? National Disaster Response Policy. Same there, so many things are there. There you will study it from geography or environment perspective in GS3. Here we have to study from what? If a disaster happens, how bureaucracy manages it. For example, COVID happened. COVID also a disaster, it's a man-made health disaster. How bureaucracy was able to manage it. What all principles will work there. Technically you call it as unity of command. Unity of command means what? You should be answerable to one person. Understood? Opposite of that is dual command. It means what? You are answerable to too many people. For example, if you take SP in the district level, he functions under dual control, dual command. SP is answerable to district magistrate, DC, because DC is in charge of the law and order administration, not SP. So if anything wrong happens, let's say communal rights happens in your district, so the CM or Home Minister will first question the DC. So so and so thing, communal rights has happened in your district, it is your failure, what are you doing? He will question whom? He will question the SP. But SP will also be questioned by his departmental hierarchy, means what you might have heard, DIG, Deputy Inspector General of Police, IG, Inspector General of Police. Those people will also question SP. Who will also question? DC will also question. Now who will you listen to then? If DC is also questioning you, DIG is also questioning you, DIG is your departmental superior. This person DC is your district superior. Your annual confidential report means what? Every year how have you performed, performance appraisal we tell. For SP it is not written by DIG, it is written by district magistrate. If district magistrate writes in the report that the SP is inefficient, that means your promotion is affected. So, but your departmental hierarchy, ultimately throughout your career you have to stay where? In your police department. So that means you have to listen to DIG also. If you listen to DIG, DC will not give you better role, performance appraisal. If you listen to DC, DIG will be angry. Who will you listen to now? That's technically called as the problem of dual command. Because dual command means what? Dual means you are answerable to two people. It will create confusion. That's why a lot of people tell that anybody working in the organization should be only answerable to one person. So that is what unity of command. If you are answerable to too many people, you are creating confusions. The employee will be confused as to whom should I listen here. Should I listen to DC? Should I listen to MLA? Should I listen to MP? Should I listen to district magistrate? District minister? Should I listen to my own minister? Whom should I listen to? That's a confusion, because unity of command we don't follow. Like that, so many things are there. All of that we'll be studying. Fine. This one you might have heard, obviously. This is largely about what? You tell me. Look at the words. 5-year plans. Imagine how many 5-year plans we have followed in post-independence. 12 5-year plans. Literally till 2017 we should have followed. But in the mid of that itself, obviously, Planning Commission is replaced by what? Niti Aayog. And pre-1991 we used to have something called as imperative planning. Means one size fits all approach. If you have heard, even in polity we keep using those words. Even in economy they might have used. One size fits all means what? Means everything was decided at the top level. One size fits all means they assume that we'll apply the same kind of policies, everything across the country. Then later things started to change. We technically call it as indicative planning. Imperative planning, where everything was controlled by Government of India or Centre or Planning Commission, became indicative planning. Autonomy to private sector, state governments, cooperative federalism, competitive federalism, that started to come up. Gradually Planning Commission itself was abolished, now replaced by what? Niti Aayog. So what is the difference between Planning Commission and Niti Aayog? Do we actually follow planning today or not? First of all, what is planning? Those are all we'll be studying under your plans and priorities. Fine. This one I think is more simple. I don't even have to explain. Look at it. Which is what? Public sector undertakings, which is famously, if you have heard, Nehru used to famously describe them as what? Temples of modern India. So PSUs used to play a very dominant role till 1991, or you can 1991 LPG reforms, all those things you might have heard. Post that, now if you have heard the words, look at it now. Means what? Disinvestments have increased. Today private sector plays the dominant role. So how the role of PSUs has changed in pre-1991 to post-1991 era. All of that is your PSU's topic. This is again your polity. To be more precise, it is your preamble. Philosophical constitutional framework of government. Of course, additionally we will study your political culture, bureaucracy, everything. But basically that is your preamble chapter. You call preamble equality, liberty, socialism, secularism, justice, those aspects. So more or less entire polity you will get it in your paper 2. In addition, so many other aspects also we have to discuss. Fine. Now these two will see literally overlap with your, remember in paper 1 you have these chapters. Look at the chapter here. Personnel administration. That personnel administration and this is overlap. Combinedly they'll do. Same financial administration there, financial management there, overlap. Budget, CAG, audits, accounting, this, that, everything they'll overlap and discuss. Fine. That is largely the syllabus. Paper 1 and paper 2 largely syllabus. Largely you take it as what? Paper 1 is kind of theory aspect. Paper 2 is what? Indian administration angle, practical aspect. When you write answers or even in general what you have to do, you should have a bigger picture. Means you cannot study topic by topic. Once, of course in the beginning it's not so easy. Once optional is completed, all those things what you should have a 360-degree view of the entire optional. Let's say for example you are studying Kautilya in paper 2. You should be able to link Kautilya in paper 2 to which one? To the theories that you study. Remember leadership theory, motivation theory, classical theory, participation, that you should be able to link. Let us say you are discussing about what you call structure of organizations in paper 1 there. Automatically, remember I told you Indian police structure example, that you should be able to link. So like that, for example, why motivation lacks in civil servants, or why leadership may plays a major role even in bureaucracy, even in private sector, all that you should be able to link. that linkages is the most biggest challenge, because whoever gets that linkages quickly will have an advantage. Fine. That all we will be knowing. Obviously, as of now, what we will do, 7 to 10 is the normal timings of those all. Let's not study that. Sources wise, if you have a confusion, this is the major source. As of now, stick to Raja Binod Aribam for both paper 1 and paper 2. Of course, there is some other books also like Prasad and Prasad, Mohit Bhattacharya, Arora and Goyal, all of those things. As of today, from 1 week, because August 1st we will be starting with the classes. If you want to go through any basics, please go through IGNOU BA Public Administration chapters. You will get PDFs online. So IGNOU, Indira Gandhi National Open University, Public Administration BA, beginning chapters, introduction chapter or administrative thinkers chapters. Just go through the basics to just get a fair idea. What do you mean by Woodrow, who is called as the father of public administration, Woodrow Wilson, what is his major idea, what do you call as this, who is this Weber, who is this Taylor. So what is just a fair idea, that's it. Introduction and administrative thought chapters. As of now I am telling. Books, if you want to purchase now, just purchase Radha Binod Aribam book for both paper 1 and paper 2. All of other things will take care of it later, because even if you start reading Prasad and Prasad or Bhattacharya now, you will not be able, don't directly go and purchase Radha Binod, this Bhattacharya or Prasad and Prasad and start studying, because it's a technical thing, it's not easy to understand. Stick to, as of now, till classes start, IGNOU. Then, which one? Radha Binod Aribam. Other things, we'll do that based on the chapter wise, because Arora or Goyal, everything is largely for paper 2. Like that you have, that all we'll discuss later. Fine. If you have seen actually, that all okay. Another bigger normalist what students will have keep having doubts is what? Sir, should we study? We have heard saying that, sir, should continuously we have to keep reading current affairs, this, that, everything. That's a common doubt they have in like options like PUBAD, PSIR, all of those things. Obviously, current affairs, whatever issues are there, you have to keep using in your answers also. But it's not like new current affairs you have to study. Whatever daily current affairs that you do for normally your GS thing, Hindu, this, that, everything, same thing only. You should be able to identify, okay, how can I link this to PUBAD also? When you study a particular topic, let's say you are studying budget now, because budget is going on, you have to link it to your paper 2, GS2 paper 2, there, polity and all those things, social justice. Same way GS3, economy part, agriculture part. Same way in public administration, how can I link it to financial administration, financial management. So same topic, you should have the smart ability to link. That's it. It's not like something new current affairs you don't have to study. There is nothing called as new current affairs. Same current affairs you should link here. That's the one thing. Another biggest normally what students keep have confusions about PUBAD is what scores, this, that, everything. I think that all Sailesh sir would have already clarified. Scores, as again I am just clarifying for that matter. You take any option for that matter. Which one? It can be PUBAD or PSIR or sociology or literature or any of those things. If you complete the paper, address the demand of the question and decent presentation, this, that, everything, 260 to 270 is guaranteed. Fine. The highest that you can get in any of these options is what? 300. And sir, how should I reach that 300? It depends on, as I told, do you have the ability to have a 360-degree perspective? Each and every topic, right from paper 1, chapter 1 to paper 2, chapter 4, am I able to link properly? That if you are able to do, that takes you from 260s to 280s, 290s. And of course, current affairs angle will always be there. Whichever you study, smartly you should be able to link. That all will take time. Obviously, it's not so easy, because optional, again I am clarifying, in the first week or 1 or 2 weeks, because you will not be having an exposure to the optional for the, this kind of study, you might have not have studied in your graduation, everything. All of a sudden you will not get a hold. It will take some time for you to adjust first of all. Okay, this is something new. For example, you might have felt, especially economy 1, now if you don't have a exposure to economy in your graduation or anything, all of a sudden if you start hearing economy things, you start feeling kind of challenge. Okay, how should I link this? Because technical aspects. Polity kind of a one, modern India kind of a one, largely you can understand, because polity day and out everybody will keep talking about Prime Minister, Chief Minister, MPs, MLAs, this, that. Relatively you can link. Economy is not so easy, because inflation, all of a sudden if you never studied inflation, all of a sudden if you study it from a technical point, it will not be so easy for you. Same way, when you are studying a new optional, all of a sudden you will not get a hold. It will take sometimes, I mean little time, maybe week, maybe 10 days, 15 days. So don't be in a hurry that I should directly start writing answers, all those things. It will practically will not happen. Gradually get a hold, whatever doubts are there. So discuss with Sailesh sir in the beginning, because he will be taking the beginning classes, all those things. Discuss with him and try to get the hold. And then start writing answers gradually, keep looking at, always remember, whenever you study for mains, syllabus, PYQ. Don't do anything without syllabus and PYQs. Topic wise PYQ, of course syllabus, each and everything. It should be in your fingertips. Now, whatever I studied, mostly they would have mentioned it here. And this one aspect which normally for every mains it will apply. First point, you should have a very good consolidated notes. Once you revise all those notes, you should start having a start notes, everything. That all again you will not understand now. It will take time. Fine, because you can't directly make a short notes. It's all not so easy. Fine. See, we have just put a kind of small question so that to get an idea how to write an answer and everything. See, this from your public policy chapter. Public policy is influenced by various organs or bodies. Means how policy is influenced by, it can be legislature or let's say what civil societies or judiciary or international organization like that. What he has started with, see, first he has told what do you mean by public policy or who all will play a greater role. See, pressure groups, civil society, media, judiciary, NGO, international organization. And the question is saying it is influenced by various organs or bodies. For that what he did, how pressure group influences, how judiciary influences, how civil society influences, how NGOs, media, international organization. So each and everything he has explained individually, separately. Then what he had tried to do, largely there is a model called as black box model of policy making. That all you will understand technical aspect. How various organizations or things will influence public policy. For just a kind of illustration he has used. Fine. So that is how you need to broadly structure the answers. That all we will understand. There are so many toppers, there are so many ways of answer writing, that all we will discuss. This all I think you will be knowing by now. Largely, most briefly assume 100 classes will be there, around 100 classes, because less than 300 hours you cannot do any optional. So 100 classes you have to assume, 3 hours per day, so into 100 classes, that's fixed. 50 hours, 50 classes more or less Sailesh sir will take, 50 classes more or less I will take. So largely in the beginning theory aspect, all those things Sailesh sir will take, and then few part of paper 1 I will take, and then major part of paper 2. Like that we have divided it, almost 50% syllabus. 50 classes of him, 50 classes of mine. So 100 classes to fix. So if you start from August 1st, August, September, October, November. So maximum November you assume. So now by November end it will be completed. So that what, maybe December, maybe till mid-Jan or something, you can revise the optional and then try to whatever compilation, this, that, some notes, everything is there, you have to compile. Then what you have to do, for 100 days exclusively, or maybe around say you can say 3.5 months exclusively, you put it for your prelims. Almost from your Jan also, or you can say Jan mid or Jan end, something like that, because I think May end is the prelims next year. So February, March, April, May, 4 months is more than enough, so almost 120 days. So December and Jan you can keep it for revision of optional. February to May 100% for your prelims. So that what happens if you have revised public administration for 2 months, so because 3-4 months you will have a gap then, because you will be studying for prelims. After prelims, when you come back, you should directly start writing whatever answer writing, everything is pending, start writing that. If any short notes you have to do, you have to make the short notes, and then test series and then mains. That should be the ideal approach. Of course, execution is not so easy, by now you should have understood. Telling it on paper is easy. Fine, but classes wise that is our responsibility. Daily go, revise them, all those things, that's your responsibility. Because if you don't read whatever is done in class that day, then everything will get piled up. Then all of a sudden you will start feeling like, okay, 30 classes I have to revise everything. So just make sure that you come to class regularly, make some good class notes, and then what you do, that day itself try to revise it. If not from reference book, at least what you have written down in classes, that you at least note down, revise, so that you will start getting a hold on the subject. Because if you leave like that, then if you come after 1 month, 2 months and then start studying from beginning, then you will not get that connect. Again you have to go watch back the videos again. It's a complicated process. So make sure that every single day whatever is done, maybe not ideally every single day because whatever other issues, some classes is that, 2-3 days, whatever is done, you have to finish it off, so that you are on track with what is happening in the class. Clear? So these are normally syllabus, whatever is there, that everything I've just tried to sum up. Any other doubts you had on the overall subject? You might have understood by now that this year we are only doing one batch of public administration, because whatever some KPSC issue, that so many things were there, and again what they keep doing. So next also they'll keep postponing KPSC. So forget about that aspect. So because of that only we are combining and we are doing only one batch. Normally we used to do 2 batches every year. This year it's only one batch. So along with you guys, whoever had joined earlier, so when we started in March, April, those people will also add up. Clear? Because you guys, I think you're coming for the orientation for first time, correct? And most of you are from what, this year 2025 batches or 2024 also? 25. So B1, B2, B3, B4, okay, B5, B6 is also there, I think. Anybody from B6? B6? But I think B5 classes. Oh, you're sitting early class. Okay, fine. Okay, any other doubts? Any other details like when will it start? August 1st it will be starting. I think August 1st will be next Friday. I don't know the exact day, but August 1st will be starting. Anything else if you have, please ask. Review. I'm going to tell something first. Brief moment.
So, any questions or doubts you can ask. Online students, if you have any questions, you can post on this chat box. Any questions? Everybody understood what you are going to study in public administration? So in the end, I think Manjunath sir discussed about what is expected from UPSC, interlinkages, examples. So it's very simple. Like I said in the beginning, practitioner's approach is understanding theory and understanding how to use it in real life to solve a problem. This is basically the expectation. So we are actually going to take classes from this perspective only, how each theory is useful in any aspect, particularly in Indian administration, how we will be able to solve any particular problem using it. Any questions? Someone has said hi, but there is no question. So if there are no questions, I think we can end the session here. If you get any questions later, as we discussed earlier, you can send on Telegram. I think Manjunath sir's Telegram, in that poster it is, I think it is given. Okay. So I hope you got some insight about public administration as optional. We'll end the session here. Thank you.